My name's Alyssa, and I was 26 when this happened. I manage a clothing store in a strip mall. One of those jobs where you spend all day fixing displays, smiling at people who don't see you, and pretending you're not exhausted. That night in May 2023, I closed alone. My assistant called out, so the last hour dragged by in silence. By the time I locked the front doors, my brain was still in work mode. Count the drawer, check the lock twice, make sure the alarm chirped. I had about a 40-minute drive home through rural Alabama. The roads were empty, and I stopped at the same gas station I always did. One of the only lit places on a dark stretch of road with nothing else around. The station was half lit. A couple overhead lights were out, making the pumps look tired. Inside, the store glowed harsh and bright. I could see the clerk behind the counter, head down on his phone. I parked near the front, and then I saw a woman. I thought she was walking past my car, but she stopped. She was standing right beside my driver's side door now. She was close enough that opening the door would have hit her. She was in a light-colored hoodie and dark pants, hair pulled back, messy. Nothing obviously threatening about her, but people don't stand that close unless they want something. I rolled my window down a couple inches. "Hey," I said, "are you okay?" No response. I waited for the usual request: money, a ride, a phone, something. She just looked at the window. I tried again. "Ma'am?" Still nothing. I looked toward the store. The clerk hadn't noticed. 2 cars pulled in, got gas, and left without slowing down. When I looked back at her, something felt wrong in a way I couldn't immediately explain. Her mouth hadn't moved at all. No swallow, no twitch, nothing. And her eyes, she wasn't blinking. Not normally, anyway. It didn't look natural. It looked intentional. Like she was trying not to move. That stillness started to feel aggressive. I checked my locks automatically. I hadn't turned the engine off. "If you need help," I said, "I can call someone for you." She hadn't looked at the clerk. She hadn't looked around. She'd been watching only me. I put the car in drive and eased forward, thinking I'd just reposition, pull closer to the door where the light was better. She moved with me. She stepped forward at the same pace, staying aligned with my door. I stopped. Now she was still right there, like we hadn't moved at all. I cracked the window a little more, enough to talk clearly. "I'm not opening the door," I said, "but if you need help, I'll call someone." Her gaze dipped. Phone, door handle, back to the window. I locked the doors again without thinking. I moved in my seat to look past her toward the front door. She adjusted too, just enough to stay blocking the door. That's when my thoughts shortened. Don't get out. Don't argue. Get away from her. I lifted my phone to my ear like I was making a call. "Hey," I said loudly, "I'm at the gas station on County Road. Can you stay on the phone with me?" I wasn't calling anyone. She didn't react, so I honked. One long blast that echoed across the lot. The clerk finally looked up. One guy at a pump turned around. The woman took a single step back. That inch of space was enough. I put the car in reverse and backed up slowly, never taking my eyes off her. I just wanted distance. She stayed where she was, watching. As my angle changed, I noticed something else. Her hands were slightly behind her hips, like she didn't want me to see them clearly. Maybe it meant nothing. My body didn't believe that. I pulled forward toward the store, parked under the brightest light, and got out fast. Inside, my hands started shaking. "That woman outside," I said to the clerk. "Do you know her?" He leaned and looked. "She been standing there?" "Yes, right next to my car." He shrugged. "People be weird." Like that meant or explained something. I bought a bottle of water I didn't want just to stay inside, and watched through the glass. She hadn't gone to a car. She hadn't asked anyone else for help. After a few minutes, she walked around the corner of the building, toward the darker side near the trash cans, and disappeared. When I finally left, I scanned the lot carefully, and then I took the long way home, sticking to lit roads, even though it added time. I don't even know if this is a story or not, but what really scared me is that she never asked for anything. She didn't pretend to be desperate. She didn't explain herself. She just took the space beside my door and waited for me to decide what kind of person I was going to be. I'm not the kind of guy who jumps at shadows or tells stories for attention. This was winter 2020, one of those nights where the cold doesn't just sit in the air, it presses in on you. I was driving home after a late shift with the heater blasting. I stopped at a gas station just off the highway, not a place you pick, just the only thing lit for miles. A few pumps, a small convenience store, and darkness everywhere else. The lot was almost empty. I didn't even turn the engine off. I told myself I'd be in and out. Inside, I grabbed a bottle of water and a hot dog. The clerk was watching a TV mounted above the counter. No line, no noise, nothing that stuck. I walked back out with my hood up, breath fogging the air, and didn't scan the lot the way I should have. I didn't look between cars. I didn't pause, because nothing ever happens. I got into my car and shut the door, and immediately I heard breathing that wasn't mine. Right behind me. I didn't turn around right away. I just stared at the steering wheel, hands locked in place, like the dashboard might explain what I'd just heard. The car was still running. The radio was on. Everything looked normal. In the rearview mirror, I caught a shape. A man, sitting directly behind me. "Get out of my car," I yelled. He didn't move. He leaned forward, and I could see his face better in the mirror. He didn't look dangerous. He didn't look frantic. He looked ordinary, like someone you wouldn't remember 10 minutes later. "Relax," he said. "I thought it was my buddy's car." "No," I said. "Get out, now." Instead of leaving, he started talking, asking questions. "You from around here?" I didn't answer. My head was suddenly crowded with thoughts. Are the doors locked? Can he reach me? Where's the clerk? Why isn't anyone else here? He kept going like we were stuck in a conversation we'd agreed to have. "My phone's dead," he said. "I'm waiting on someone." I turned my head just enough to confirm what I already knew. He was fully seated, feet on the floor, one hand resting near the middle seat belt latch. He wasn't scrambling to leave. He was settled. I asked, "How did you even get in my car?" He shrugged. Door was unlocked. He saw my hesitation. Then his tone changed. "I already said sorry," he said. "I didn't touch anything. I'm just sitting here." He said it like the violation was small because he named it that way. I said, "Get out." He sighed like I was inconveniencing him. "You don't got to be weird about it," he said. "People acting crazy lately." Then he leaned forward another inch and asked, "You got any cash?" That was the moment I realized I was still trying to keep things polite, still trying to be calm, still acting like social rules mattered. They didn't. I raised my voice and said, "Hey, I need help over here." He looked toward the store windows. "Don't do that," he said. I said it again, louder, and then I got out of the car. For a split second, I thought he might grab me or jump into the driver's seat. My body braced for something worse, but he didn't rush. He stepped out slowly, irritation written all over his face, like I had made things awkward. "Man," he said, "I told you. I thought it was my ride." He took a few steps away from the car and stopped, watching me like he was waiting to see what I'd do next. The clerk finally cracked the door open. "You okay?" he asked. "There was someone in my back seat," I said. "Call somebody." The guy raised his hand slightly, not apologetic, more like, "This guy's overreacting." Then he walked away around the dark side of the building and disappeared. I stood there shaking, the car door still open and the engine still running. The clerk asked if I wanted to call the police. I nodded without thinking, then stopped myself. That's the part I'm not proud of. Once the guy was gone, it felt harder to explain, harder to admit how easily it happened. So I said no and left. I drove home with every interior light on. I checked the back seat at red lights. I locked the doors so many times the button stopped responding. For weeks after, I checked the back seat before getting in, even in my own driveway. I still don't know how he got in. Maybe he watched me from somewhere and moved fast. I don't have a clean answer. I just know this. I don't treat quick stops as harmless anymore. Because sometimes all it takes is 1 minute inside a gas station for someone to decide your car is theirs. I was driving back through northern Michigan after visiting a friend from school. It wasn't a fun trip, just one of those late drives where you're trying to beat bad weather and get home before things get worse. The snow had already started, the kind that doesn't look dangerous yet. The weather app had been warning about lake effect snow all day, and every mile north felt darker and emptier. I kept telling myself I had enough gas. Then the needle dipped under a quarter tank. Up there at night, that matters more than you think. There aren't many exits, and when you miss one, you can drive a long time before seeing another sign of life. So when I spotted a small gas station off a 2-lane road, just a plain building with 2 pumps and a flickering open sign, I took the exit without thinking twice. The lot was half buried in snowbanks. No fast food, no other businesses, just that one building glowing under harsh lights. I pulled up, slid my card, and the pump beeped at me. See cashier. Of course. I pulled my hood up and went inside, already planning the interaction in my head. Pay, pump, leave. The place smelled like old coffee and cleaning chemicals. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, rows of chips, jerky, windshield fluid, all very normal. There was one clerk behind the counter, a guy in a beanie and hoodie under his work shirt. He looked tired, like he'd been there too long. I smiled and said, "Hi, I need 20 on pump 2. He nodded, reached toward the register, then stopped. "1 second," he said. Then he turned and walked through a door behind the counter marked Employees Only. The door shut behind him. I stood there with my wallet out, waiting. I could hear the coolers humming, snow ticking against the windows. It felt like a normal pause at first. Then it didn't. I waited longer than felt reasonable. I cleared my throat and called out, "Hey, no rush, just whenever." No answer. I looked around, no other employees, no customers, just me in a building full of objects. There was one of those little service bells on the counter. I tapped it once. The sound rang out way louder than it should have. But still nothing. I wandered an aisle, pretending to browse. Picked something up, put it back. Checked my phone. 1 bar of service. Minutes passed. And what started bothering me wasn't just that he hadn't come back. It was that there was no sound from the back at all. No footsteps, no drawers, no voice. I leaned toward the back door, trying to see under it. There was no light and no movement. I decided I'd just leave. I didn't need this exact station. I could find another one. I walked to the front door and pulled. It didn't open. I pulled again. Harder. Nothing. I stared at the door, confused, then noticed the metal slider at the top, the kind some places use for overnight locking. The door was locked. Now I was inside a gas station with no clerk at the counter and no easy way out. At first, I felt annoyed. Then that faded into something colder. I walked back to the counter and rang the bell again, this time really ringing it. "Hello?" I called. Still nothing. I stood a few feet from the back door and said louder, "Hey, the front door's locked." No response. Then I heard something. Just a soft noise behind the door, like something moving, like careful movement. My brain immediately split into 2 possibilities. In one, the clerk was hurt back there and needed help. In the other, he wasn't hurt at all. Neither option felt good. I pulled out my phone and tried to call 911. The call screen came up, then failed. I tried calling my friend. Same thing. 1 bar. No connection. I looked out the front windows. My car sat alone at the pump. No headlights on the road, no movement anywhere. And that's when it really hit me. There was no one in charge here. No authority, no witnesses. Just me, a locked door, and a back room I couldn't see into. I did something that felt awkward even as I did it. I started talking out loud. "Okay," I said, projecting my voice. "I'm leaving. I'm calling someone. I'm not staying in here." I walked back to the front door and pulled again. Still locked. Then I heard a metallic click above me. The latch released. The door cracked open an inch. I didn't hesitate. I shoved it open, stepped into the cold, and moved fast. I didn't go to the pump. I didn't look back inside. I got into my car, locked the doors, and started the engine. As I backed out, I looked at the store. The lights were still on. The aisles looked exactly the same. The back door was still closed. No clerk rushing out, no explanation. Nothing. I drove until I hit a busier highway and saw other cars. My hands stayed tight on the wheel the whole time. A week later, I mentioned it to a coworker like it was just a weird travel story. She shrugged and said, "Oh yeah, some stations up there don't staff overnight. They lock up and monitor remotely." That explanation should have made it fine. It didn't, because it didn't explain why he said 1 second. It didn't explain the noise behind the door. It didn't explain why the front door unlocked only when I tried to leave again. I never went back. I don't even remember the name of the station. I just remember standing alone in a place that should have been safe and realizing how fast a public space can turn into somewhere no one can hear you. I was 29 when this happened, and it still feels uncomfortable to explain, because nothing big happened. No chase, no screaming, no police report. Just one moment where I realized how easily politeness can be used against you. It was around 1:30 in the morning near El Paso, Texas. I'd just finished a long shift on a travel assignment and was driving to the town where I was staying. I wasn't exhausted enough to be sloppy, but I was tired in that way, where you are alert on the outside, dulled underneath. I only stopped because I needed gas. Out there, you don't always get options. When I saw a station with a bright canopy and lit windows, I told myself it was fine. A pickup sat near the entrance. Another car was parked at a far pump with its headlights on. It looked normal enough. I pulled in, stepped out, and immediately felt the heat. Desert nights don't cool the way you expect. The place smelled like dust and fuel. I slid my card, started pumping, and stayed close to my car with my keys looped through my fingers. That's when I noticed him. He stood at the next pump over, not actually pumping gas, just lingering. Dark pants, light jacket, baseball cap pulled low. The lighting made his face hard to read. At first, I didn't think danger. I thought annoyance. He stepped closer, entering my space without announcing it. "Miss?" he said. I looked up. "Yeah?" He gestured at the pump. "You? Help? How use?" His English sounded broken but careful. "I work in healthcare. Explaining things calmly is second nature." I pointed at the card slot, explained grades, kept my tone neutral. He smiled briefly, thanked me, and I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. "Where are you going?" he asked. That question changed everything. I gave the kind of answer women learn to give, just headed to my place. "Where?" he asked, stepping closer again. I kept my voice even. "Not far." He nodded, eyes flicking to my hands, then to my car. "You alone?" That internal alarm clicked on, the shift you feel when something stops being awkward and starts forming a pattern. I didn't want to escalate it. I didn't want to be dramatic, so I stayed polite. "I'm fine," I said. "I'm just finishing up." He didn't move away. He watched my pump, my door, the inside of my car. "You nurse?" he asked. I blinked. "What?" "Nurse," he said, smiling. "You have scrubs." I was wearing a hoodie, but my badge was visible in the cup holder. Or maybe he guessed. Either way, it landed wrong. "Yeah," I said. "I work at the hospital." "Oh," he replied, like that meant something. "You help people." The pump clicked off, and that was the best sound in the world at that moment. I capped the tank quickly and moved toward my door. He drifted with me, matching my steps without touching me, positioning himself just close enough to be in the way. "I'm gonna go," I said. "Go where?" I didn't answer. I reached for the handle. "I'm leaving," I repeated. "I have to get back." He stared at me for a second, expression blank, unreadable. Then, in perfectly fluent English, he said, "You didn't have to be rude." No accent, no effort. It was like watching someone drop a mask they no longer needed. My hand paused on the door. I looked at him fully. "I wasn't rude," I said. He smiled, but it felt wrong. "You're acting like I did something." I didn't respond. I got into my car, shut the door, and locked it immediately. My hands were steady. My thinking was sharp. Outside, he stepped back one pace. He didn't touch the car, didn't raise his voice, didn't make a scene. He just watched me. I started the engine, backed out smoothly, drove off like nothing had happened, like I was trying not to turn it into something bigger. In my mirror, he stayed under the canopy lights, perfectly still. I drove until the station disappeared, then pulled into a busy exit with a fast food place attached. I sat with the engine running and the doors locked. Only then did my body catch up. At work, I deal with people in crisis all the time. You learn the difference between confusion and performance, between need and manipulation. That man had been performing. The broken English wasn't confusion, it was leverage. It kept me explaining, engaging, staying in helper mode. And the moment I tried to end the interaction, he switched tactics and tried to make me feel guilty. You didn't have to be rude, like my safety was a manners problem. For weeks afterward, I replayed it, not as a dramatic scene, but as questions. Why me? How long had he been there? What would have changed if I'd stayed another 5 seconds? The worst part was how ordinary it all looked. From the outside, nothing happened. No shouting, no struggle, no obvious threat. Just a woman getting gas, a man asking for help. But I know what I felt when his English suddenly became perfect. It wasn't surprise, it was clarity. Like my brain finally stopped trying to be polite and started trying to protect me. And I've never treated a quick gas stop the same way again. I'm 41 and I run construction crews for a living. Foreman. I'm the guy who's on site early, checking staging, watching for mistakes, making sure nobody gets hurt. I'm not jumpy. I don't get spooked by shadows or noises. That matters because if this had happened to someone else, I might have brushed it off. This was Bakersfield, late 2019, just before midnight. I remember because my phone clock was the brightest thing in my truck besides the dash. I'd been on a late job, cleanup dragged, paperwork dragged longer, and all I wanted was gas and sleep. The station was familiar. Bright canopy, humming lights, small store. Not empty, not busy. One car near the front pumps, a pickup by the entrance. I parked on the far side of the building. Habit. Fewer cars, more room to pull out. I drive a work truck with tools in the back and I don't like being boxed in. That side of the building was darker. The canopy lights faded around the corner, leaving a stretch of weak wall lights, a trash enclosure, and a delivery door. Quiet. The kind of quiet where you notice everything. I left the engine running and checked a text from one of my guys about the morning load. That's when I heard the knock on my driver's side window, like someone knocking on an office door. My first reaction was irritation, not fear. I turned my head and saw nothing but darkness, just my own reflection in the glass. Then the person leaned forward enough to catch the light. Not a full face, just part of one. A cheek, a mouth, the brim of a hat. Close enough that his breath fogged the corner of the window. My body tightened immediately. I cracked the window maybe half an inch. "Hey," he said casually, "you got the time?" Normal question, almost convincing. "Almost midnight," I said. "Appreciate it," he replied. And he didn't step back. He stayed right there, too close, half hidden, positioned where I couldn't see his full body. "Where you headed?" he asked. I paused. "Home." He laughed lightly, like we were chatting. "Long day?" "Yeah, I'm good," I said, starting to roll the window up. His hand lifted, palm out, like he was politely stopping me. "Hey, relax," he said quickly. "I'm not asking for money." That sentence flipped something in my head. I hadn't accused him of anything. He said it because he knew how this looked, because he knew the situation was off. I rolled the window all the way up. I expected him to step back, shrug it off, walk away. Instead, he leaned closer. His forehead nearly touched the glass. He smiled like he was trying to reset the moment. Then he tapped the window again. I didn't respond. That's when it hit me. I hadn't heard him approach. No footsteps, no gravel crunch, no fence rattle. Nothing. That side of the building was quiet. The kind of quiet where you hear trash shift in the wind. If he'd walked up, I should have heard something. I scanned around him, trying to figure out how he got there. Behind him was the wall and a narrow strip of gravel between the building and a chain-link fence. On the other side of the fence was an empty lot, dirt and weeds. If he'd come around the corner, I would have seen him in my mirror. That mirror catches that angle. I know it does. If he came through the gravel, I should have heard it. But the first sound he made was knocking on my window. He knocked again and looked toward the passenger side like he was checking options. That was enough. I put the truck in drive and rolled forward. As I pulled out, he stepped back fast, like I'd interrupted something. My headlights swept across him for a second. I saw more of him then. Mid-30s maybe, scruffy, hat pulled low, normal looking. But one arm was held close to his side, angled away from the light like he didn't want it seen. I drove under the canopy lights and straight out of the lot. At the next light, I checked my mirrors, expecting headlights. Nothing. That bothered me more than a chase would have. It meant he wasn't acting on impulse. He tried the interaction, tested boundaries, and when it didn't work, he let it go, like I wasn't the only option. The next day at work, one of my guys joked that I seemed jumpy. I laughed it off. I didn't explain. Because how do you explain that what rattled you wasn't a visible threat, but the way someone appeared beside you from a place you thought was empty? For a long time after that, I stopped parking in dark corners. I kept my mirrors wider. I stayed alert even when I didn't feel like I needed to be. And sometimes, when I'm near the dark side of a building late at night, I catch myself listening, not for footsteps, but for the sound that should come before someone arrives. Because that night in Bakersfield, it never did. Only the knock. If these stories reminded you that danger doesn't always announce itself, go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next nightmare, and let me know which story got under your skin. And if highways feel safer than gas stations, think again. Click now to watch 4 really scary highway stories. Because sometimes the road isn't empty. You're just not supposed to see who's there yet. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.